Is Kurt coming in, or he really isn't around?
No, he's doing something else.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you could please.
Hello.
In your normal voice.
Sorry. Which is my normal? Hello, 1, 2, testing.
So this is Roland from Tears for
Yeah,
Fears.
that's probably.
I'm Laura Gross, and I'm sitting with Roland from Tears for Fears, and they have a new album coming out, so new that there aren't even albums yet. Did you
Aren't
know?
there?
No.
Really?
Well, I didn't get one. I got a cassette with a...
Oh, see, no, the albums. I think there are albums.
Oh, well,
It's out in England anyway.
okay, that's it. How would you say this album is a change and a growth from the first?
Well, I think it's exactly that. It's a change and a growth. With the first album, we were very precious about what we were doing. We were meticulous, and we were trying very hard to be original. With this album, we haven't tried very hard. We've been ourselves more, and hence I think it's more original. I think in the past we've been criticised of being possibly too modest, possibly too subtle, and we just decided to be a bit more flash, be a bit more, do a bit more showing off.
Too modest and too subtle. Musically?
Yeah. Well, I think
lyrically?
in our approach, this chair's making a weird noise. No, just in our approach, really. I mean, because the thing is, I mean, if you exercise restraint, people sometimes get the wrong idea, and that's exactly what we were doing. We've let loose a bit on this album. We've become more direct.
Now, lyrically, the first album, was so centered around the Primal Scream and Janet and all that. Is the second album that same thing?
I think a lot of the themes are exactly the same. However, they're just a lot more vague, which I think is easier for people to understand, in a sense. Because I think the music and the lyrics are working together better. I don't think people are going to separate the lyrics from the music on this album, which they did to a degree on the last album.
Don't you find, though, that listeners, the public really doesn't do that? I mean, I think very few people really sit and analyze lyrics. They listen to a song if they like the way it feels.
Well, that's what I would hope, but all journalists picked us up on the lyrics. There was no real music criticism before.
I read an article about you in Melody Maker, where they were quite in depth about the music and the kinds of, not only the kinds of crossfades, which I thought was real unusual to get that, in depth about the music, but also the kinds of instruments you like, the kinds of experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a rare case where somebody really made a point of going into the music and not the lyrics?
I don't know. I mean, that we've only just had a couple of reviews on this album, 4 or 5, and they've all been really good.
When you went in to make the second album, I know you said the first one was very traumatizing because you were really going through so much to make it perfect and redid some things.
Yeah, it was.
Was this...
It was hard work, the first album. This second album's a lot more enjoyable. We did it in Ian's house. Ian Stanley, our keyboard player and co-writer. We did it in his house, so it was not a normal recording studio. We did the saxophone in the bathroom, we did the piano in the lounge and that kind of thing. And it was a very warm atmosphere, and that comes across in this record, I think.
How do you record in a house? I mean...
Well, for a start, you need recording equipment, which is what we did. I mean, we started really in Ian's house anyway. We started there on his 8-track. It's been updated to a 24-track, and that's where we've done the album, which was mixed in Munich.
Why?
Well, it wasn't cold enough in England, so we thought we'd go to Munich for the winter.
I thought England was pretty cold this winter.
Yeah, well, not compared to Munich.
How cold was it in Munich?
About -30 at sometimes. Something which people in Los Angeles have probably never experienced.
Well, most people from Los Angeles are, actually transplants from back east.
Oh, really? Yeah, fair enough then.
very few California natives here. You should ask people, where are you really from? You know, and they'll tell you. So they know that's why they came out here.
I see. Right.
They didn't like the 30 below, you know. The I think in Chicago it was 60 below the wind chill. So you went to Munich, obviously not really because you wanted to freeze. What was your real reason for going there?
Well, we were looking for somewhere romantic to record. I mean, we'd done it in somebody's home. Hadn't spent much money on it, so we thought, right, we'll spoil ourselves and go somewhere romantic. Initially, we tried to go to Austria, and that didn't come out. Then we tried going to Paris, and that didn't come off, so we ended up in Munich.
Is Munich romantic?
No, not really.
I didn't think so. But you figured, what the hell? How long were you there, actually?
Almost a month.
So how long did this album take to make?
About eight months in total.
Same as the first?
Yeah, it's weird.
So if this was more fun and more natural,
why didn't it take? Why wasn't it quicker? Well, half the time was taken up with 2 songs, one of which is Mother's Talk and the second is Shout. We had a lot of teething troubles at the beginning, getting used to what was a new mode of working, really. It took us that, Mother's Talk and Shout to arrive at the final direction of the album. Once we'd done that, it was sort of plain sailing. We did the last 6 tracks in 4 months, and the last track, which is called Everybody Wants to Rule the World in a Week. So, the process was refined at the end.
Got easier.
Yeah.
So when you finally had it down, it was time to be finished.
Yeah.
So next time you have to start all over, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do something different. Now, I understand that your music has been somewhat confusing to critics, that they seem to not know what to think of you because one single's different from the next. And is that true?
I'm not sure, really. Does it?
Yeah.
Does it say that?
It does.
I think, I think there've been, up to now, there's been a few anomalies, which are Tears for Fears, which is confusing. There are too many, it's almost been too diverse. And it's only lately that we've learnt to use those anomalies in a positive way.
In what way is that?
Well, how can I put it? For a start, within Kurt and myself, there's quite a wide range. There's quite a difference. I mean, Kurt tends to do a lot of the promotion. I know I'm talking to you now, but he does a lot of the promotion. He does a lot of the PR work. He is more of a face than any other member. In fact, I mean, I actually sing more songs than him, but he, up until lately, has been regarded as the lead singer. And he sings the more, how can I put it, lightweight material, and I've always sung the darker material. And I think initially there was too much, they were too varied. Now it's becoming a lot more cohesive, and there's a better play-off between the 2 types of material, I think.
So they're not as far apart?
I just think we're doing both aspects better. That's what it is.
Maybe that they're one whole, like the yin and the yang make one whole.
That's right, yeah. Like cottage cheese and pineapple.
That's a great house. Now you've got it. God, I haven't seen cottage cheese and pineapple.
Cottage cheese and pineapple? Oh, yeah. No, it's not cottage cheese and pineapple, is it?
Yeah, it's a standard.
Yeah, but God, I haven't seen it in a long time. That's an old one. Yeah.
You get it in England.
Yeah,
Oh, is it big in England? Oh, God, that's funny. Because I'm there all the time. I mean, not all the time, but I go once a year, but I don't remember ever seeing cottage cheese and pineapple.
Yeah.
Now, how did you two originally decide to do music? You met at 13 in school?
Yeah, well, not the same school. We had a mutual friend, a kid I was at school with, who knew Kurt. I've always been in sort of kid bands and everything, and doing the singing. And I heard Kurt singing along to a record, and his voice had broken. And it sounded great. So I asked him to sing. And I've been sort of in and out of bands with him ever since, not all the time. And Tears for Fears really, we chose the name and became, what we are now about 4.5 years ago.
You were first the Graduate?
Well, we were in a band called Graduate, which was a 5-piece band, kind of just a pop band, and we did a lot of live work and touring and that kind of thing, getting nowhere pretty fast. And
How about the Headaches one? What was that?
That's a joke.
It is?
History of Headaches, yeah.
You mean it didn't really exist?
No, of course not. We were lying.
I love it. And now it's part of your written history.
I know, well,
And when the Rolling Stone Annual comes out, it'll be in there, you
Yeah.
know? It's one of those things.
That's right.
Why did you decide to do that? That's great.
Well, nothing. I mean, you just get bored saying exactly the same thing, so you start to invent things, like a secret band called the History of Headaches. Yeah. In the Upside Down Clinic, we were in the Upside Down Clinic as well.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
I haven't read about that one.
No.
Oh, great. So it was really from Graduate to Tears for Fears?
Yeah, it was really. I mean, Tears for Fears was set up as a complete reaction to the band we were previously in. I mean, Graduate was a live band. We made a few records, but they weren't very good. And Tears for Fears was set up specifically to learn about the art of recording and make good records. Live, we didn't even want to play live.
Really?
Yeah.
And yet I've read that you've said that the live show has so much more...
Yeah, there's a lot of guts in the live show, which is missing from the first album. It's more evident in the second album. And, we're just about to embark on a world tour, which will keep us busy till past August. So we wouldn't do it if we didn't enjoy it.
Is the US a part of this world?
That's
tour?
right, yeah,
When
US and Canada. About June, I think.
And where else in the world?
Europe, Australia and Japan, Canada.
Are you big in Japan?
No, not at all. Well, it depends. A lot of Japanese people are quite small, so yeah, we're quite tall in Japan. I say we're tall in Japan, not big in Japan.
How about France? I'm curious because this is one of the places this is going. Is for.
Oh, is it? Oh, lovely. Well, no, we haven't done anything there either. It's one European country. Shout's to be released there, so keep our fingers crossed. Shout was number 1 in 4 European countries, number 4 in England. So hopefully, it's been number 1 in Belgium, and that's not far from France. So hopefully, it'll do well in France as well. I'd like it to, because I like France. I like Paris. My father was born there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you speak it?
Un peu.
It came out there.
Yeah.
I just got this French client. I'm taking lessons every
really?
day. It's
Yeah.
like, because when he comes over next week, I'd like to at least say,
Yeah.
C'est
comment ça va?
Yeah, something, yeah, I can say that. But, I'd like to have a little conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
Mini conversation.
Yeah.
So Europe, you've got certain strongholds, certain...
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And England, of course, you're
Yeah.
very big. And here, what kind of reaction are you getting here?
I don't know, really. We haven't played here live yet. We came over last time when the album was out to do some press, and that was enjoyable. We even did a press conference as well. It was great. And we got on, I think we get on better with American press than we do with English press.
Why is that?
I think, English press tend to be a bit cynical. And I think American press are a bit more willing to try and understand, kind of thing.
The English press had a hard time accepting that you were so, quote unquote, melancholy.
Yeah,
about,
that's right. Yeah.
About the world.
Yeah, we were. I wouldn't say we were melancholic at all, but it appeared that way because The Hurting was a reflective album, and the English press kind of, at a time when people were making pure pop music and when pure pop music was the thing to do, we weren't.
Like you said, the more you do what's you,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
the better it turns out. You can't really follow the trend.
No.
Now, how did you and Kurt discover Janon's books, and at what point did that come into your lives? I used to know, I still do, this lady who taught me guitar, and it became like a second home to me because she taught me guitar. I used to go there a lot. And she sort of, showed me a book, which I read, really, about the age of 17, I think it was. Did you turn Kurt on to that?
Yeah,
Now, you've read the book, obviously, you know.
the books, yeah.
The books.
Hmm.
When you first read them, what happened? I mean, was it like big revelation, or gee, this makes sense, or what?
Yeah, it just made sense. I mean, I'd like to just say that there's absolutely nothing mystic about it. There's nothing religious, and it's not like every other kind of therapy or that kind of thing. It's just the books are about what makes you tick and that kind of thing, and they're very straightforward, and it's based on science, and incredibly interesting. Yeah, I mean, at a time there's a period between the age of 16 and 18 where people go from adolescence to adulthood, I suppose, yeah. And
Takes some of us long.
yeah, that's right, yeah. And I was going through that kind of soul-searching period anyway, and that's when I came across it.
Have you since met Dr. John Oz?
No.
You know, he's right down the street.
Was he?
Well, his office.
I thought he was
are-
in Paris, yeah.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Oh, because his offices
that's right.
are right on Sunset, like, you know,
Mhm.
maybe 2 miles down the street. So have you spoken to him at all? I mean,
No.
do you want to?
Not particularly, no. I don't know what I'd say.
The books are enough?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to make sort of I don't want to make a heavy thing about it. It's just, they're interesting books, and everybody should read them if they get the chance.
I'm just curious, you know, if you guys even thought about going to him. as
Well,
patients.
yeah, we will.
At what point?
Soon. Whenever there's time, really. I mean, the only reason we haven't was because there's been no time.
Now, did you name Tears for Fears because of...
Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, nothing that I haven't already said, really. I mean, it comes from one of his books, the name, as do a lot of the songs. I mean, Ideas as Opiates, for instance, is a chapter in one of his books, which is a track on the first album.
How about anything on this album? Is there anything so directly linked?
Not as directly linked. I mean, I think the themes are still running through it, everything. But I just think they're a bit more open to individual interpretation. They're more vague, but the impression is greater, if you know what I mean.
Tell me what the themes are that, you know, if you had to pick, say, 2 or 3 that you really feel are the threads that tie this album together, what would they be?
Well, I don't know, really. I mean, I don't know, they're more songs than themes. I mean, it's the title of the album is Songs from the Big Chair, and that's exactly what they are. I wouldn't quote themes. I mean, there's more themes running from The Hurting to this album. For instance, there's a song on this album called I Believe, which is almost like the follow-up to a song called Ideas as Opiates on the first album, that kind of thing. It takes the themes a bit further, you know?
Mm-hmm. What is The Big Chair?
The Big Chair comes from a film called Sybil. Have you seen Sybil?
I know the film.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
16 personalities?
Yeah, that's right, about a psychotic, I don't know, polyschizophrenic or whatever, who, she goes through a kind of, I don't know, therapy with a psychoanalyst, and she sits with her in her big chair in her office. That's where she feels safe.
So these are the songs from the 16 different personalities?
No, songs from the Big Chair. Yes.
But are you saying then they're from the different minds of all of
No,
them?
no. It's just the Big Chair as a symbol kind of thing, you know.
Oh, okay. We're not jumping to it having that kind of a
No,
deep meaning. There
not
you go.
really.
So you had to have seen the movie to get the...
Yeah, that's right.
Or else you could think it was some big chair.
Yeah.
You know, you have a throne in your house and people are... Does Ian have a big chair?
Ian has possibly one of the biggest sofas you've ever seen. It really...
Sounds from the big sofa.
Well, it could have been, yeah.
Now, what about this optimism? You know, you were saying you're not melancholy, and you listen to the music, and to me, dark music gives you a dark feeling. You know,
Well, kind of. I mean, there's a lot of variety. I mean, no one can say that Everybody Wants to Rule the World is a dark song. It's quite pleasant. It's a nice melody.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
There's-
These songs
well, yeah.
seem very upbeat to me, mostly.
Yeah, I mean... What was the question?
Well, you know, we're kind of talking about the melancholy versus the upbeat. What would you, I mean, really and truly, if somebody had never heard any of your music, nor read anything
Yeah.
about you, and said, what do you do, what would you say?
I'd say we were just a very good British group. Pop group. I don't know, we just make pop music with a lot of depth and a lot of thought.
Was it ever scary to you that, because, as you said, this was a time when it was kind of devil may care, that you would have a hard time putting across what you wanted to do?
Yeah, but I mean, we will win out in the end. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you are winning.
We are winning out with this album.
And the first one, I mean, you didn't exactly bomb.
No, we didn't. No, I mean, I don't mean in terms of sales. No, sales have always been okay, but in terms of communication, I think we're getting better.
So that's more, is that more important than the commercial success?
It's all wrapped up and together, really.
You can't really communicate if you don't sell records.
That's right.
I mean, because nobody really.
Well,
cares.
for instance, we did Everybody Wants to Rule the World specifically for commercial reasons. At the same time, if Everybody Wants to Rule the World's a hit and people buy the album, they will in turn listen to songs like I Believe and listen to songs like The Working Hour. And that way, you know, you should use all of your talents to put across, you know, what you want to.
Why was Shout the first single?
Shout hasn't been released here, you know that. It's been
Just in England?
just in England and Europe.
Oh, I see. So Everybody Wants to Rule the World is...
Everybody Wants to Rule the World is the first single here.
And that was specifically planned to be more commercially viable?
In America, yeah, definitely.
What makes you think, gee, this is more commercially viable? What, you know, what's the criteria?
Define the American music scene. I don't know, it's just kind of... It's not very dark. It's a really nice melody with a very good feel. And it's quite safe.
Do you find it hard to try to figure out what the Americans want versus what...
No, not really. I mean, we didn't really do that. I mean, we just happened to have a song lying around that would fit in that category. We didn't write it specifically for it.
Who decides that besides you? I mean, is the record company and the managers? And
Not really. I mean, a lot of it's basically down to the people who worked on the album, which is myself, Kurt, Ian, and Chris, our producer. Chris has got a very good commercial ear. He can really. I mean, he said. He's got a lot of vision. I mean, he'll tell us that things are going to be great, even when we don't think they are, and they generally turn out really well.
That's very unusual for you to have that much control. How did you manage that?
I don't know. You've got to put your foot down and be strong.
Very few bands have that. I mean, very often singles are put out that the band is furious about. You know, it's just not at all what they foresaw as the single. Sometimes...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that does happen.
And then sometimes that song turns out to be the hugest hit. You know,
Oh, yeah.
they fought it all along and it becomes number one for 10 weeks.
That's right, yeah.
But sometimes it dies a death.
Yeah.
You know, is there something in your contract that says you're the ones who...
No, I just think that we're not stupid. We do know what's going on. And we've got... I don't know, I think we've got a good ear for that kind of thing.
And it's your own music, so you know. What would you think people are expecting from Tears for Fears, particularly in Britain, because they know you? You know.
Well, I don't really think they're expecting much. That's why it's going to be a big surprise. I mean, the reviews already have. I mean, it's completely turned around for us in England. We've, you know,
What have they
through
said
this album.
time?
Well, it's just the reviews have been incredibly, incredibly good.
I was real interested in what you said about the Thompson twins.
What did I say?
Toured with them.
What did I say about
Maybe it
the
wasn't
Thompson
you. Not today. That you toured with them and that you felt they had really lost touch with the feeling of their music and become very mechanical and very commercial. Maybe it was Kurt who said that.
Did I say that? Well, yeah, that's it's possibly a fair comment. I don't know.
Oh, tell me about touring with them. What it was like to tour with them.
It was really good fun. Yeah, I know. Well,
Is it hard to be an opening act?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something we won't do again. I mean, when we toured with the Thompson Twins in England, I mean, we were at number 3 in the charts, and they hadn't even had a hit single at the time, and we were opening for them, and it's really weird.
Why? Why was it so
Because
weird?
we'd previously signed contracts before our single was out.
Didn't people think maybe we should turn this around? That's what
Well,
happened.
no, you can't.
In '63, Roy Orbison was heading the show, and the Beatles were opening for him. And by the time the tour was over, the Beatles were the closing act.
Yeah, but he was blind.
I mean, it has, those things have been changed mid-tour in the past. Something that you guys couldn't.
No, because no, you can't do that.
It was the way it was. Now you wouldn't open for someone now.
No, not really.
Does that limit possibilities? I mean, what about?
No, not really.
How about here?
We will be doing a tour on our own.
So it would just be, what size halls?
I haven't a clue.
Mm.
Depends on what happens with the single, really.
So you've got a couple months. When is the single actually coming out?
It's out.
Oh, it is. Has there been any chart action yet?
Not yet, no.
So it's something you had quite a bit of AOR play with your.
Oh, The Hurting got a ludicrous amount of airplay, and I'm sure this album will as well. We sold quite a few records here, especially in LA, but without a hit single. I mean, it was selling on the strength of the album tracks, and even if we don't get a hit single here, I'm sure that the album will receive a lot of airplay.
So how long will this tour actually? 9 months, did you say?
Well, we'll be going till around August, September, kind of thing.
What happens after that?
We have a break. We have a rest. A deserved rest after 2 years.
You haven't had any breaks?
No, not really.
You're 22 now or 23?
23.
So you've been doing it for 2 years.
Well, no, we started recording the album, The Hurting, when I was 20. Celebrated my 21st birthday in Abbey Road Studios, down in the canteen. So, yeah, it's been a long time.
Who do you think is out now that you admire, whose work you listen to? Who would you actually go plunk down your money to buy an album from?
Quite a few people. I mean, there's people I admire musically, and there's people who I enjoy, I find entertaining. I mean, I really admire Jerry Dammers from the Specials. He's good. There's a band, English band, Scottish band actually, called the Blue Nile, which are tremendous, and they will make a big noise, I'm sure, here, as soon as they get things sorted out. And who else? Talking Heads, always been a favourite. I like ZZ Top, I find them very entertaining.
See, now the first two that you mentioned, I have not heard about.
Really? I've heard of
Yeah.
the Specials.
I don't think so.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't think they're really doing much over here.
No,
or-
they're not.
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing. I mean, sometimes the English charts and the American charts share almost nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think people are looking for in England? That, like when you go to play in England, are you looking to do something different than when you come over here?
No, not really. I think that if you're good enough, if you're good enough and you are, how can I put it? There's enough. You're orthodox enough, which I think we are. Then you'll work on both sides of the Atlantic.
You're Orthodox.
Well, there's enough normality in what you do for people to understand,
And enough craziness so that you're a little off the edge. Don't you have to be a little off the edge to make a ripple, a change? Doesn't it have,
Yeah, I think you do have to be slightly. Well, I think it's better to be slightly left of field. Yeah.
How do you kind of, do you have to stop and think about that? Gee, we got to make sure we're putting in enough normalcy, or,
No, it's just something. I mean, you that comes naturally, really. I mean, I like pop music, and I like stuff that doesn't get in the charts, and therefore it comes out in what we do. We all do.
Now, over here, like, say, you said you didn't do any touring at all
No.
before, but you did promotional. If you were to walk down Sunset, would people recognize you? Would people ask
No.
for autographs? So enjoy it while you can. This is when you should go to Disneyland.
I've been to Disney.
Oh, well then. Universal Studios?
Yeah.
What are you doing while you're here?
We've done Bandstand and we're doing Solid Gold tomorrow. Today, sorry.
Today? What else are you doing? Are you having any fun here at all? I mean, is this...
Yeah, we had a day off yesterday. I've got a few friends here that I'm going to see.
So you went and visited, you didn't sort of do the sights or...
No. I spent 10 days in Los Angeles a couple of Christmases ago, so I've seen the sights.
So you figure that's enough? And yet you say LA was the biggest pocket of sales for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, 60% of all album sales were done here in the city.
Do you know, do they actually have figures as to what areas? I mean, I would imagine like Hollywood would be really particularly hot.
Mm.
Is that true?
I haven't a clue.
You don't know? So that's real interesting, because somewhere here in Los Angeles there are a whole bunch of fans of
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. I mean, Kurt, when he went to K-Rock, I mean, there were 200 people outside by the time he'd finished.
That's pretty cool.
You know, and there were cars following him and everything, jumping on his cars and that kind of thing. So incredible.
You don't do your interviews together now, or is that just a...
Well, we do. It's just that when there's a lot, it's easier to do them individually.
Yeah, double your output.
Yeah.
Are you sitting in just to listen or to...
I'm learning, basically.
So that you can do some next time around?
Whatever, it's just another aspect of it.
Just for the... What is that a harder aspect, a part that you don't really look forward to, or is that a more easy...
No, I mean, I really enjoy talking to people, and I mean, it is a lot of the time down to the interviewer, how to get things going, to show an interest and to show... I mean, it is hard when people walk in and they don't know anything about you. That's really tough. But if people, show an interest, then it's a joy to do.
Come in. Okay. What do you say if somebody knows nothing? I mean, I have heard this, that people come in, they have never heard the record, they've never read a bio, they know really, literally nothing, And I can't even imagine what they ask. What do they ask?
Well, they ask similar questions to what you've asked.
Oh, really?
No, I'm only joking.
Thank you. They say, how'd you find out about Jana?
No, I'm only joking.
Okay. I'll leave and feel my tail between my legs now. No, what do they ask? I mean, and how do you... Then it's up to you, isn't it, to make it good?
Yeah, I guess so.
and you said to me that the communication's the real key here. Earlier you said that.
Yeah, but what I meant was communication through music.
But isn't this a part of that too? I mean, supposing someone picks up a magazine, they haven't listened to you, and there's a really intriguing article about you, or they hear about you on the radio, and there's something really intriguing you've said, and they go, I'd like to, that sounds interesting, I'd like to hear this single that they think is commercial or is,
Yeah.
So I think you can interest people. I mean, that is the point of doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you turn it around? And, this is something you probably have to do on stage sometimes, is turn the audience around.
No, well, I don't know.
You've never been on stage where you've had an audience that wasn't quite with you?
Yeah, but we haven't turned them around. They've just stayed not with us.
Well, that's something you gotta do. What do you say to somebody who really doesn't know anything?
I say, hello, my name's Roland. I don't know.
You don't give them like the background or...
Yeah, obviously.
Can you make it work that way?
Yeah, sometimes.
Then I guess it depends on how much they're listening to you, or how willing you are to fill them in.
Well, and also how much they really want to know.
So you say you have a well-deserved rest coming up after the tour.
The tour, yeah.
But what are the long-term plans for the group?
I really don't have a clue. I mean, again, it's really hard to say what the next stage has got to be, because again, I feel the next album's got to be sufficiently different and sufficiently better than this one, or else why is it worth doing one?
So what makes something like that sufficiently different or sufficiently better? I mean, what do you have to do to make...
I don't know. I mean, obviously we're getting better anyway with experience and age. I mean, as I said, we were 20 when we started The Hurting. We were 23 when we started this. So with age, we're getting better. We're starting to sound like men. I'm starting to shave, that kind of thing.
And that makes a big difference.
Well, it does make a lot of difference.
Shaving?
Yeah, well, there's more edge to the music.
I got it. Well, she said 5 minutes, so I'm going to close. I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Now, I have a few little liners, and I didn't do the French ones. I have to write it out.
Sorry, I speak.
Well, I have we're, so just put I'm and then from. And I went, these are both very sarcastic.
Okay.
And
Steve Wright.
Yeah, do you listen to a Sunday show?
Hello, we're Tears for Fears, and you're tuned in to the one, the only Steve Wright on BBC One. You're bloody lucky he's the one and only. Who could take more?
You don't want to say that? If you feel uncomfortable,
Hello,
don't say
this
it.
is Roland from Tears for Fears, and you're listening to the one, the only Big Ron on the radio. And thank God he's the one and only.
Would you rather not do those? I mean, would you rather do them straight?
Well, I'll do. You're listening to the one and only Big Ron on the radio.
Okay. See, they always want sarcastic ones. So
Okay. Are we
Uh-huh.
right? Hello, this is Roland from Tears for Fears, and you're listening to the one and only Big Ron on the radio. And the next one, then? Hello, this is Roland from Tears for Fears, and you're tuned in to the one and only Steve Wright on BBC One.
And then I want to do one more for the French, if I can just... For the French.
Bonjour.
Es-tu prêt?
Je suis Roland de Tears for Fears, et je suis ici en France à Hollywood Music.
Why don't you do one in English, just to...
Hello, this is Roland from Tears for Fears, and I'm here in France on Hollywood Music.